Hello, everyone. This is Sachin Kumar, a Google developer expert, and welcome to one of the first sessions on the Google Assistant. And in today's session, we'll be looking into how to build actions for the Google Assistant. So, this whole session and a series of videos, live YouTube streams, is being conducted by Google developer experts and Googlers, and also from the community as well. So, this is called the MENA Digital Days. And as part of this whole um, event or the sessions, this is the current plan. So, if you can see, we start on week 1. The theme is ML for everyone. And every day we have speakers, multiple speakers talking on various topics in terms of technology, business, and we are also looking at leadership. So, as part of the next week, we have the International Women's Day and so on. So, do check this out and make sure that you have subscribed to this channel and also go through all of the other sessions by fellow developers. So, as part of this whole session, as I mentioned, it's all about learning. Together, we all learn, and part of that is connecting the community in terms of learning, mentoring, and building business. So, if you are interested in actually learning more about the MENA Digital Days 2020, make sure to look into these links for further information. And two more things. So this is very important. So help us improve this initiative. So the attendance certificate weekly after, fill this feedback and also keep learning, keep moving forward. Find out more using this link below. So let me introduce myself again. My name is Sachin Kumar. I'm a Google developer expert, especially for the Google Assistant. I'm also the Chief Technology Officer at Tupelo Life, which is a connected healthcare company based out of Dallas, Texas. I also head the Google developer groups in Doha. So, before we actually get into how to build your own actions for the Google Assistant, let's actually take a step back and understand the basics or the foundations. So, I'm pretty sure everyone who's actually tuned in live over here would actually understand what a chatbot is. If not, there's a lot of examples out there. Probably every chat support that you're talking to right now might be a chatbot. You might actually feel that it's a person sitting behind, but it might actually be a chatbot who's actually going through with all of your queries. So, what is a chatbot? So, a chatbot is nothing but an artificial intelligence software that can simulate a conversation with a user in a very natural language through messaging applications, websites, mobile apps, or through a telephone, right? And the importance of a chatbot is, let's say, the global chatbot market is expected to grow exponentially between 2018 and 2023. So these are some of the stats or statistics that I got from the internet. And you can see that 85% of customer interaction will be managed without a human by 2020. And 44% of the executives believe that AI's most important benefit is automated communications that provide data that can be used to make decisions. So now that we have a very high level overview of what a chatbot is, let's talk about voice assistants. So when we talk about voice assistants, one of the first things that comes to our mind is the Google Assistant. So in terms of the Google Assistant, what I would say is we have the Google Home here. The Google Assistant is actually available across all types of devices. So we'll get into that. So what is the Google Assistant? So the Google Assistant is nothing but your own personal assistant from Google to get things done for you and to get things done in the most helpful and useful manner. And what does this mean to you as developers, right? So the Google Assistant is readily accessible across 1 billion plus devices. Google has heavily invested in areas of natural language processing, machine learning, and voice interactions. Now, with all of these investment in these areas, they have been able to create the Google Assistant in the most complex as well as the most helpful manner. And with all of this um, uh, development over the years, how does that help us as developers? We can quickly build applications, or in this case, actions. And I'll tell you why we call it actions. So we can build actions for the Google Assistant to extend, let's say, you have a mobile application, you have a business, you have something that's already out there, you would like to extend that and access and have that accessible across 1 billion plus devices. Today's session would actually help you understand how to get there. So when we talk about the Google Assistant, we kind of have these three pillars. One is the Google Assistant. So what is the Google Assistant? It is nothing but a conversation between you and Google that helps you get things done in your world. And the Google Assistant is accessible across different devices. Here, we're looking at uh, devices like this. So this is the Google Home. So smart speakers, smart displays. We are talking about your Android phones, your iPhones. So the Google Assistant is accessible across multiple platforms and devices. And as part of that, as I mentioned, it's a growing audience in terms of the devices. So every day there's a new device out there with the Google Assistant built in, right? We are talking about headphones, earphones, uh, mobile phones, Chromebooks, cameras. We're talking about uh, TVs and even cars. So we have the Android Auto and we have the Google Assistant built into cars right now. And apart from the devices, we also have a growing audience in terms of languages, right? The Google Assistant is supported across multiple languages. And if you don't actually find your specific locale or language in this specific slide, this is a bit outdated. Make sure to go and visit actionsongoogle.com and check out the supported languages. And the list keeps growing every day. So I don't So for today's session, I was actually thinking, what's the best way to go ahead and build one, right? Again, I don't want to spend too much time going through slides and go through with a lot of information. But what I would like to do is to actually make you understand the foundation or the basics, and we can start building something from scratch so that by the end of this session, probably by within next 30 minutes, you might actually build one. So that's how easy it is to get started to build for the Google Assistant. So stay with me for the next two to three slides, because these are the most important and the most basic um, foundations or building blocks to build your own actions. So one is the Google Actions on Google platform, and the other is called the Dialog Flow. So what is Actions on Google? So develop a platform that lets you create application to extend the functionality of the Google Assistant. Okay, so Actions on Google is like a developer platform that lets you extend the functionalities of the Google Assistant. So Google Assistant by default can do a lot of things, right? So for example, I can actually talk to the Google Assistant over here, and I'm sorry for people who have their Google Homes enabled, but this is just to show you some demos and capabilities of Google Assistant.
The mic's back on.
Hey Google, what's the weather?
Currently in Doha, it's 18 degrees and clear. Tonight, it's predicted to be 18 and clear.
What's the time in Dubai?
The time in Dubai, United Arab Emirates is 10:14 p.m.
How about in Doha?
The time in Doha is 9:14 p.m.
What about Chicago?
The time in Chicago, Illinois, USA is 1:14 p.m.
Turn the lights in studio room to blue.
Okay, changing 4 lights to blue.
So as you can see, with just simple conversations, I was able to ask multiple things to the Google Assistant. So Google Assistant by default is very powerful. You just heard I had this setting called continuous conversation enabled. So I don't have to say, hey Google, or let for the rest of this tutorial, I might actually mention hey G, just so that we don't accidentally keep triggering this. But the whole idea is whenever I say the trigger word, and then when I'm having a conversation, it can continue to listen. And if you look at it, it was able to even understand the previous context at what I was actually talking about. So when I talked about the time for the first location, it gave me that. Then the next conversation that I had was, how about Doha? And it was able to understand that, okay, this guy is actually asking about time, and let me actually give him that information. And the next time when I asked about Chicago, again, it still went back and understood that it went back 3 layers before and understood that this guy is still talking about time, right? So let me still provide that information to the user. So as you can see, I have my entire house automated. So I have lights here, I have my smart locks, smart switches all over the place. So this is like a classic example of how you can actually have a lot of these uh, activities or actions automated just by using your normal conversation. Hey Google, turn the lights in studio room to warm white.
Sure, changing studio to white.
So that's how easy it is. Now that we understand how we can actually build, how we can actually have a conversation with the Google Assistant, let's actually understand the foundation block. Now, the next one is Dialog Flow. So Actions on Google is the platform where we were talking about Actions on Google. So Actions on Google is the platform where we extend the functionalities of the Google Assistant. We saw some of the basic functionalities already, but if you look at the lights, when I was able to control the lights, again, it has its own actions. And that's actually controlling each individual lights. And you can have different smart lights all integrated at the same time. I have two different lights over here, which is Philips Hue and LifeX. Both are from different companies, but still based on one conversation that I had, it was able to understand and then do the same action. So the same way, if you look at your actions that you build, you'll actually go ahead and build that in the actions on Google Console. Okay, so this is where you extend your application. So if you have an existing application or a device, this is a platform where you actually go and build one. And Dialog Flow. So Dialog Flow is a platform that makes it incredibly straightforward to build conversational experiences. And again, this one is a pretty powerful tool, at the same time very simple. So I think after this session you would actually fall in love with Dialog Flow, because the amount of capabilities and functionalities that this tool provides is mind-blowing. So let's just have a quick example of what an action is. Okay, so here you have this person talk to the Google Assistant in his own action, and then we can understand what happens next.
Okay, Google, let me talk to personal chef.
Sure, here's personal chef. Hi, I'm your personal chef. What are you in the mood for?
Well, it's kind of cold outside, so I'd like something to warm me up, like a hot soup, and I want it fast.
All right, what protein would you like to use?
I have some chicken and also some canned tomatoes.
Okay, well, I think you should try the chicken tomato soup recipe I found on example.com.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So if you actually look at this conversation, right, when the user was actually talking to the Google Assistant, he said, talk to personal chef. So talk to personal chef is his own action. Okay. So personal chef it's like his voice application that he's built, and he's actually having a conversation with that. And if you actually look into this specific conversation, well, it's kind of cold outside. So I liked something to warm me up, like a hot soup, and I want it fast. So as developers, if we have to write a regular expression for something like this, it's pretty complex, right? So think about this. We're talking about cold, warm, hot, soup, and fast in the same conversation or the same sentence. And the cold that he's talking about here is not even about the food. He's saying it's cold outside. So he's talking about the weather. Then something to warm me up. So again, he's still not talking about the food over here. So we have hot, soup, and fast. So there's different context of each statement that he is given. So we need to have a tool where we can understand such a complex a conversation. We have to dissect this and understand what the user is actually saying. So fortunately for us, we have Dialog Flow. As I said, Dialog Flow is a conversational design platform. It's a platform that makes it incredibly straightforward to build conversational experiences. And we would actually understand why we say incredibly straightforward as we actually interact with Dialog Flow. And the two major components that you need to understand from a dialog flow standpoint is intent matching and entity extraction. So what are intents? Intents are basically, it would match and categorize users' utterances to an intent. So let's say when we are talking about appointment scheduler, we would like to schedule something. So if I say I would like to schedule an appointment for 3 p.m. tomorrow, so that conversation can be an intent called appointment scheduler intent. So whenever you're having different conversations, you can create different intents to basically match. So while you're talking to the your action or the Google Assistant, Dialogflow will understand that okay, this person is talking about this intent. So let me actually pass that conversation to that intent and then process the next set of steps. And we have entities as well. So if you actually look back at this conversation, we have cold, warm, hot, soup, and fast. So these are different entities that we need to extract, right? So we need to have this information so that we can process something and give it back to the user. So in this case, let's have a look at it. So this is like the dialog flow interface. You have intents. Recipe recommendation was the intent that was there. So chicken sounds good to me. I liked a cold dessert and I want it right now. So if you actually look at it, building your conversation or designing your conversation in dialog flow is as easy as just inputting what the user might actually say. So user expressions or utterances is what you actually feed in. You don't really code at any point at this time, right? And as you type in, you can see that certain keywords are highlighted, and these are called entities. You can go and create your own entities and say that, okay, chicken can fall under all the non-veg. So you can create an entity called non-veg and have chicken over there. So whenever your user is talking about something to do with chicken, it understands that that falls under the non-veg category, and then you can go ahead and recommend a recipe based on the other information that's been provided, right? So those are basically intents, and entities. So, in order for any chatbot or voice assistant to process information from your backend, you need to have a backend logic. At the same time, you need to connect the information to transfer it to and fro from your business logic. So that's why we have fulfillment. So fulfillment is nothing but a piece of code, right? Which basically acts as a middle person to transfer information from between your action and to your backend. And fulfillment also acts from a per intent basis. So let's say you have like 3 or 4 intents that you have created, and every time you need to pass the when the user is having a conversation, it will go to, okay, this conversation means it has to go into intent 1, and within intent 1 it is connected to intent 1 business logic. And again, from a fulfillment perspective, we also have other information that you extract, right? So fulfillment is a place where you pass on what's the intent, and within that intent, what are the keywords that I have received from the conversation. So you extract that information, and then you actually go ahead and do your own backend logic or business logic, and then get the result back to the user. So let's actually look at one example, like a workflow, right? So your user says, my phone keeps rebooting and is broken. Can I get it fixed tomorrow? Goes to the Google Assistant. Google Assistant understands that, okay, this is, I need to pass this, and pass it to Dialog Flow. Dialog Flow understands that, okay, this is a specific intent, and within that intent, entities are phone and tomorrow, right? So pass that information back to webhook. Your webhook can basically understand, do all the processing with the backend logic. Okay, he's talking about his phone. He needs to get it fixed tomorrow. So an agent will reach out to you soon to fix. So actually here, it's actually a typo. It's actually supposed to be a phone, right? So we are talking about Dialog Flow, and one of the most important things in Dialog Flow over here is the integrations. So why build in Dialog Flow? Again, Google Assistant is one of the major integrations with Dialog Flow, but you can also have Dialog Flow integrated with multiple platforms, right? We are talking about, you build it once in Dialog Flow, you can integrate seamlessly with Google Assistant. You can also send it across to multiple other platforms like Facebook Messengers, Slack, Skype, Viber, and so on. So here's an example of one of the integrations that I've done. And again, this is the Google Assistant in a phone, right? Once you build for the Google Assistant, you can try it out in a simulator. You also can try it out directly on your phone, as well as any smart home devices. So here you can see I have, I would like to report an issue. The chatbot or the Google Assistant says, sure, I can help you with that. Please provide your name for the ticket. I provide my name. Then it asks for my phone number. I provide the phone number, and then we are done. Yeah. And the same thing goes with, so this is an example of the one of the other chatbots that I built. So this is directly in Skype. So the same one of the chatbots that I built. So the same chatbots can be on your website. It can be integrated into Google Assistant. In this case, it's integrated into Skype. Sorry. So this is a Skype interface. So within Skype, Mimo is the chatbot that I built, and within that, you can see that when I say hi, it says greetings. How are you? Feeling wonderful. They say I need some help. So it immediately provides me with a set of instructions saying that, okay, I can help you with a lot of things like upload your blood pressure, weight, blood glucose, and so on. So I say, what was my last reading? It says, your last BP reading was so and so at time. So your systolic was 132 and diastolic pressure was 76. So just like that, just by having a small conversation or chat, I'm able to get useful information quickly and at that same time, right? So I ask what is my heart score, it gives me other information, and I say, look at this. I even say cool, and it says I know, right? So you can also build in some character into your chatbot or your voice assistant. So it really depends on how you want to build it. So let's move on to the next one. So how do you make it more engaging and fun? I would just like to show this before we start building one.
Come in. Welcome to the terrifying world of the imagination.
So here, as you can see, instead of just having a simple normal conversation back to the user, you can also use audio effects. And here, how it's done is using SSML. So SSML looks like this. It's nothing but speech synthesis markup language. So you can, just like HTML, you can actually provide speak. So this must be the start. So within that, you can provide say as, interpret as characters. So this one would be read as SSML instead of actually trying to make a word out of this. Then break time 3 seconds means, okay, it's after saying SSML, it will give a break for 3 seconds and then play this audio file. And the same way, that's how this specific example was built. And the most important thing to note over here is just by doing this, you're also giving an idea to the user of what your conversation is about, right? You're already giving a theme about your conversation. So all of that falls under the conversation design guidelines. So I would highly recommend each and everyone to go and check this specific link. Google has a checklist that you need to follow. It's very easy to build conversations just like that, but it's also very important to build conversation in the right way, right? So if I say, you say, talk to my test application or talk to any invocation name that you have, but instead of actually guiding the user what your action is about, if you just say, hi, how can I help? So that's an open-ended conversation. So I can just go ahead and ask anything, right? So it needs, your conversation needs to guide the user to a specific action. So you have to narrow down the options for the user, because unlike mobile applications, you don't have like a screen or buttons to click and interact. The user is limited to the interface that's been provided in mobile applications and web. But here it's a conversation. The user can actually play around, can ask any kind of information back to the user, right? So those are some of the things that you need to take into consideration. So make sure to follow this design guidelines. Okay, so I have a lot of demos that's available. So we can actually start looking at the demos towards the end of this session. So what I would like to do right now is switch from here and quickly start building something from scratch, right? So the first thing that you need to do is go to console.actions.google.com, or just go and type in Google Actions on Google Console. You would automatically be taken over here. Okay, so this, as I mentioned, is Actions on Google platform. This is where you would build your project. This is where you would actually extend the functionalities of your Google Assistant. So let's go ahead and click a new project. Let's call it Mina Digital Days. Okay, go ahead and create it. And then as you can see, you already have a list of themes that you can choose from. So let's say if you're building a game, you can already choose this. Or if you're building something for the smart home, again, in future sessions, I'll be covering how to build an action for your smartphone, smart home devices. So let me know in the comments if that's something that's interesting for you. We can definitely arrange a session for that. And just like that, you have different themes going on over here. But for today's session, as I mentioned, we'll be looking directly to integrate with Dialog Flow. And since we are actually building a custom one, let's go ahead and click on Dialog Flow. So, few things to note. Once your project is created, you have these tabs over here. So overview, develop, test, deploy, analytics. So everything that you need for the Google Assistant or your action, this console will provide you with that information, right? So for the first thing is quick setup, decide how your action is invoked. So let's say if you want to give um, let's say a specific name to this, right? So talk to personal chef was what we saw in the demo. Instead of that, you can actually give your own name. Again, there are restrictions to it. You cannot use another company's brand name and say talk to Google, for example, right? So that wouldn't work. So you need to follow the guidelines and policies which are in place. But typically your name has to be multi-word, right? So talk to Dr. Music, talk to, let's say, GDG Mina, right? So once you provide that,
GDG Mina.
you can actually go ahead
GDG Mina.
and hear what that uh, co- trigger word or invocation word would look like, right? And you can also go and select different voices depending on your application or action. So with that, let's go back, click on, let's save that. Now that we have saved that, let's go ahead to actions. Let's build our first action, click get started. Since this is going to be a custom intent, let's go and click on custom intent and build. So you can also see over here if it's anything that you already have built-in intents like horoscope, joke, quotation, you can quickly get that going. But here, since we are going to do something from scratch, let's actually click custom intent and build. So what this would actually do is open up Dialog Flow. So again, to summarize, we were in actions on Google Console. From the actions on Google Console, we created a project. We decided what to call it, the invocation name for it, which was GDG Mina. And from there, we actually went ahead and added a custom intent, which would basically take us to Dialog Flow. So we are already over here. You can see that the same project is automatically imported over here. Select the language, time, and let's go ahead and create this agent. So what we're doing over here is creating an agent. So once this agent is created, we can go ahead and start building intents and entities, right? So by default, you would see that all I did was create an agent. If I go on to the top right and if I say hi, immediately you will see hello, how can I help? So this is like a small inbuilt simulator that's there for you to try out your whatever you've built. And you would actually wonder, where is this actually coming from, right? You have a simple, very simple application or action, or in this case, it's a chatbot with uh, a greeting. So how is this happening? Let's say if I say, hello, how can I help you? So all of this is coming from these two sections. So by default, you'd have these two basic intents, which is the default welcome intent and the fallback intent. So if you're wondering where is this coming from, this is how it is. So an intent basically looks like this. You have training phrases. So you would basically go and give what a user might say, right? So you have all of this information over here. So different ways of how a user can greet. So I said, hi, hello, howdy, any greetings, any way the user greets, it will actually go to the responses. These are the random responses that's provided to the user, right? So this is how a specific intent looks like, right? So let's do one thing. Since this is the default welcome intent, what we'll do is, let me go ahead and delete these. And I say, greetings. And this is where I was talking about conversation design. So instead of just saying, how can I assist? Let's actually guide the user to do a specific action. So in this case, I would say, hi, greetings, I can help. Copy this just to have a mixture of random responses so that you don't get bored with the same response over and over. Let me just go and save this. So now that we have saved a new response, so let's go ahead and try with a greeting. And one of the other things to note at the bottom corner, you could see that it says agent training started, and you can see this gear icon rotating. So what's happening behind the scenes is Dialogflow is using its machine learning models to basically understand what we have just done and kind of train the model and then update it. So if I just go and say, hello, you can see that the default response is, how do I can help set appointments for you. So now we've basically built a simple chatbot with a greeting, welcome greeting, and I'm telling the user that I can help set, or your agent is telling the user that it can help set appointments for you. So let's go ahead and create an appointment scheduler, right? So the way how you do it is you click on intents or this plus icon. I would say appoint. So save that. And once that is saved, let's go ahead and train, right? So train the intent with what your users will say. So let's go ahead and try that. So I would say set and okay. So the important things to note over here, you would see that 3 p.m. or 6 p.m. in this case, it's already highlighted with sys date time. So this is the beauty of Dialogflow. So it has understood that this specific utterance has a time and date attached to it, and it's automatically adding that as a system entity. So you can create custom entities like how we talked about in the recipe recommendation, In this case, we're also looking at date and time, right? So the same thing goes for uh, this statement as well. If you click on that, you can see that's highlighted as well. So let's go ahead, and now that we've added some, or I would say I would please schedule appointment at 6 today. So we basically have all of these conversations. Now let's go ahead and add responses. So under responses, you click here, and I would say let's keep it simple. So let's go ahead and save this. So now that we have created a new intent called appointment scheduler, we've provided some training phrases. I would typically say add more as possible. The more you add, the better the machine learning model gets. And then based on that, we will get a response. So let's try if this is the case. So I would say set an appointment at 4 p.m. today. It says sure, all set. And you can also see the parameter values that's coming over here, right? So if you want to take this a step further and get that information from here, you can go into values over here, right? So if you want to, let's say you want to gather more information over here, you can add that and add that value and make this as a required field. So here you can see it has added this as date and time together. You can also have this as different you can separate this out as 3 p.m. as time and date as tomorrow or today, so that you'll have two different values. So at any point when you're interacting with this conversation, you know that you're talking about time and date, so you're getting those information over here. So if I say all set for dollar date time, and again you can see this dollar or the parameter value that's coming is from here. So anything or any custom entities or system entities that been generated, you can get this information over here. If you have more than one, you can make sure that you have that as a list so that you can make sure it's required. So let's say if you don't provide a date, it doesn't skip that. It will ask you, when do you want the appointment to be scheduled, right? So if you provide date and time in the same conversation, it will handle immediately in one shot. So let's go ahead and save this. And let's actually go ahead and try this out. So I say this is a required field, and I would say when so I will tell you why I've done this. So I've mentioned here date time is required, and the prompts I've mentioned that when would you like this. So if I give a statement where I'm not mentioning date time, it will actually ask me for this information. It won't directly give me the response because we don't have a value for date time at that point. So let's try this. You see that? So when I said set an appointment, I didn't give a date and time. I just said set an appointment. Immediately it said, when would you like this? I like to schedule this. So that came from here. I would say today at, let's say, 9:30 p.m. Sure, all set for the date time. So you immediately have a simple chatbot appointment scheduler ready. Now that we've saved that, let's go ahead and see how we can integrate this into the Google Assistant. So the way how you do that is under integrations. And if you're looking to say, okay, Sachin, this all makes sense. You've just provided the same information back into the intents. How will I connect this to the backend logic? You can actually go and check a lot of tutorials out there or code labs on Google Assistant where you can actually have inbuilt cloud functions for Firebase, or you can actually enable this and provide your custom webhook URL, and you can process the same information over there. Okay, so let's go to integrations now. Click on Google Assistant and test this. So immediately you can see it went back to console.actions on google.com, went to that, it has gone to the test tab. We can see that our action is already available. Talk to GDG Meena. If I type that,
Getting the test version of GDG Meena. Howdy, I can help set appointments for you.
so set an appointment at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. tomorrow.
Sure, all set for the 24th of March 2020 T 16 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds.
And just like that, you have an action built for the Google Assistant. So this is a very simple example, and I hope this would actually help and encourage you guys to go out there and build conversations like these and even more complex actions. So the other thing about Dialog Flow is that we've gone through integrations. You say, okay, Sachin, how do I have this chatbot in my own website? It's pretty simple. So click on Web Demo, copy this iframe into your website, and you're good to go. If you want to try this out, you have this link. So you have your own chatbot here. Hello. All done. So just like that, you have a simple chatbot available to you on your website. The same thing goes with other integrations. You can see the large number of integrations that's available for you. And before we have this, we are running out of time. And due to that, I would like to show you some demos. And since that we built this on my account, I can actually have this conversation running directly on my Google Home here. That's the beauty of it. If you have your phones, make sure you're logged into the same Google account, and you can actually run your agent over here. Say, hey, Google.
The mic's back on.
Okay, Google. Talk to GDG Meena.
Let's get the test version of GDG Meena.
Howdy, I can help set appointments for you.
I would like to set an appointment at 3 p.m. tomorrow.
Sure, an appointment is set for the 24th of March 2020 T 15 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds.
So here you can see that it's already able to handle all the conversations that you have done. So that's a simple example. Since we are talking about AI, machine learning, I would like to show you another use case that I have over here. So this is an example which uses backend logic, fulfillment, and integration with other APIs like the Google Cloud, machine learning APIs like sentiment analysis to understand the user and have a conversation. So this is an example of that. Talk to my test app. Hey Google, talk to my test app.
Getting the test version of my test app.
Good afternoon, Sachin.
So it says on a scale, hey Google, talk to my test app.
Here's the test version of my test app.
Good afternoon, Sachin. Let's see how you are doing today. On a scale of 0 to 10, what is your pain score right now?
7.
How did you sleep last night?
I slept well.
Describe any side effects you are experiencing from your medications.
Probably nausea and headache.
Okay. How has your mood been over the last 2 weeks?
It's been really, really bad.
It sounds like you should talk to a trained mental health professional. Here is the nearest one, Providence St. Vincent Med Center, and you can reach them at
And you can see that I'm getting a call directly right now. Okay, you saw my screen refresh.
Good afternoon. Patient such submitted a pain score and is in need of a follow-up call.
So here's a demo where, based on a conversation, it has understood that my sentiment score is negative, minus 0.9. So sentiment analysis has a sentiment score between -1 to +1, -1 being very negative to +1 being positive. So that's the reason how you're able to identify based on my sentiment, right? And within this machine learning API, you can also link to other cool APIs or services that's available. So in this case, I use Twilio to make an automated call and also deploy an SMS. So if the sentiment is negative, the response is different. In this case, it's sent to a doctor telling that the patient is in need of a follow-up call. If it's positive, it will say, we'll continue to monitor your progress. Keep up the good work. So that's an example of how you can integrate with different services. And the last thing I would like to show quickly is, I'm sure a lot of you guys are already having your own applications, your own business running. So the way how you can quickly build a chatbot, you'd say, Sachin, how can I build a chatbot with the information that I already have? So luckily, we have Dialog Flow doing that. So since we are actually in this specific scenario with the COVID-19 issue and a lot of that, I created a simple agent over here. I did nothing but come directly to a new feature in Dialog Flow called knowledge. So the moment I click on it, all it asks to do is create a knowledge base. You give a name for the knowledge base, right? So say you save that and add a response here. So create. So this is how it is. You can go ahead and fill in some information, choose FAQ, type HTML, and choose a URL. And I actually found so this one was from CDC, right? So you have the frequently asked questions. So you have a bunch of information that's available here. So all you need to do is copy this and paste it directly over here. I did nothing else. I didn't create an intent. All I did is like a welcome. I edited the welcome intent and I go ahead and click create. So I've already done this, right? So if I go to knowledge, I've already done this one. Okay, I'll go ahead and remove this. And once I'll remove that later, but actually let's try and see how this works. So if I go ahead, go to and test this out, you can see that it's actually going ahead and going to actions on Google to that specific project, which is Corona FAQ. And let's trigger that. So talk to my test app.
version of my test app.
Hello, how can I help you?
So here I would say, what is
A novel coronavirus is a new coronavirus that has not been previously identified. The virus causing coronavirus to...
So I'm not gonna go through the whole thing, but you can see every information that was over here, and within like 5 minutes, we were able to extract any information over here. I can have the same conversation in my Google Home right now. I can say, hey, Google, talk to my test app.
Here's the test version of my test app.
Greetings, how can I assist?
How does the virus spread?
This virus was first detected in Wuhan City, Hubei Province, China. The first infections were linked to a live animal market, but the virus is now...
So as you can see, you can have that conversation directly. I'm not saying that you guys should go ahead and create actions based on coronavirus. Probably there's some policies already put in place so that information is not is properly controlled. But what I would like to show in this is, if you have existing business and if you already have websites with FAQs, you can quickly take that information directly into Dialog Flow with just providing the URL, and you're good to go. So with that, you can also check out this specific video that I have a conversation with Jessica from Google. I would like to show you some interesting demos as well. So this, if you're planning on building an action for the Google Assistant, and if you want to build your own device, so we have the Google Home over here, but if you
The
would
mic is muted.
if you'd like to build your own, this is one way of doing it. Hey Google, what's the time?
The time is 1:34 p.m.
Hey Google, how tall is Mount Everest? So here you can see that I've built like a small book. Within that, I have a Raspberry Pi and the Actions Google Actions SDK, Google Assistant Actions SDK, and then I have a small microphone over here. That's all it is, and I have a power bank, so that unlike devices like this where it's connected to the power source, I can actually take that and talk to it. Hey Google, sing a song.
Wash, wash, wash. By the way,
So that was a simple example. So if you're thinking, where can I actually go and learn a lot of these, right? So this is another demo of home automation. I've given you a small glimpse of it. So you can actually go ahead and check all of this in my website, techwithsuch.com. If you're into Medium, I would highly recommend to go and check this link. All of the tutorials that we're talking about, and even complex one where you want to link to your backend and stuff like that, the tutorials are over there. And if you'd like to connect with me, this is my Twitter handle. Go ahead, and if you have any questions that I've not answered, make sure you connect with me on Twitter. And this one slide will summarize the entire thing for you. So everything to do with the Actions console, the Dialog Flow. Actions SDK is how I built that book. Conversation design, custom experiences, and interactive canvas is one of the most trending hot topics in the voice industry at this point. You can actually have a conversation at the same time. You can have a visual interface representing that conversation. So I have all of this in the slides. You can actually check out these links and learn more about actions on Google and Dialog Flow. And as part of this digital days, we have the MENA weekly challenge. So make sure to check out this link, and all 5 winners who solve 5 quests between March and June will get a special gift box. So once again, I thank you all for joining the session today. My name is Sachin, and let's build together, and let's build cool, innovative, and meaningful chatbots, voice assistants, and actions. I'll be more than happy to see what you guys go out and build tomorrow. With that, thanks again. Thank you all for having me.